Hey, we should be live. Microphone looks good. Okay, so we're back. We're working on River Song again. This is her card from the spoilers if you haven't seen her yet. So, the more I look at cards, the more I get the feeling we're building at least two different decks, possibly a third one. So, the first two builds are definitely based around her first ability. Now, it's really easy to just absolutely break this one in half with Time Walk effects and cards that put cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. So, you know, Rado Lantern and Soldevi Excavator let you put a card from your graveyard on the bottom, and then you get to cast that Time Walk again during your next turn, and, rinse and repeat until you've won. But it is also possible to put other interesting cards back on the bottom of your deck to draw every turn, like Miracles and other stuff. Also, with her ability to let you draw from the bottom, being able to manipulate the top and bottom of your deck with card effects like Scrying becomes a lot more interesting. So, I want to build an interesting version of her, a broken, powerful version of her, but there's also, I'm starting to find a few cards that actually cause your opponent to do one of the three things for her other ability, which can then allow you to pump her up, and then whenever they get to search, either they don't get their search if it's an optional one, but the optional one we found so far is destroying all of their non-basic lands and letting them search for basics to replace them. So either they get nearly Armageddoned, or they get replacements and they take damage based on her power. So those are the two options there. So if we find enough cards like that, there might be a third build for her that focuses on that ability. But right now we're mainly focusing on the meet and reverse one. So pop back over to Gather, which seems to be running a lot better than it was yesterday. Oh, good. As soon as I say that, it's like, nope. Hey, Commander Legends. Try this again. If it doesn't erase anything. I actually said something nice about you, Gatherer, and then you immediately made me remember why I went to what's its name the last time. I forget. Does adding the thing actually work? Do we get the new cards only? No. Alright. Back to this version. No, back to that version then. Don't just skip back over 2 pages. Pain in my neck. Among other parts of my anatomy. Alright, so tap add red equal the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn. Not really anything she's doing. +3/+0 in all creature types. Nope. Exile up to one target non-salamander creature, and then that player gets a 4/3 salamander token, and it has Encore. Cascade. Whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, return from your graveyard to your hand. Become the Monarch. Can't be blocked by creatures the Monarch controls. Deals combat damage to a player. Destroy target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents control. +1/+0 for each opponent you have. Whenever a equipped creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. Haste and Cascade. Equal the number of cards in your hand, no max hand size. Is dealt damage, draw that many cards. The battlefield, create a treasure token. One or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents. Exile the top card of each opponent's library. You may play those cards this turn and spend mana or mana of any color to cast them. Nope. Enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 6 or greater, you may return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Nope. Tax pirates you control get +1/+1 for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Attacks, it gets +1/+0 for each land defending player controls. Another pirate enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, gains haste, and becomes a pirate. I don't think we need Codex Shredder, but we might want the other one from Lantern Control that makes everybody mill a card. Ghoulcaller's Bell. We might actually want something like that. +3/+3 and protection from black, white, and green. That is 2 out of the 3 best targeted removal colors. In fact, it's the number 1 and 2 targeted removal colors. And it gives her +3/+3 for the other ability. I might be down for some Commander Plate. Alright, so... Commander... Legends. Yeah. Commander's Plate. Plate is a 1-drop artifact. It doesn't hurt to have her have more power in the other versions of the deck, just as a way to damage the other players while we're setting up our cool things. Because the other players will scry and search on their own. It's just that if we can't rely on that as a way to kill them, I don't want to go all in on that aspect of her. But if we can get a way to force them to do it, or to put them in a position where not searching takes away a bunch of their resources, like the Ruination variant that we already found, then I'm a lot more interested in that at that point. Don't need the courts. You become the monarch. Cast a spell, sacrifice any number of artifacts under creatures. For each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less for each other artifact or creature you sacrifice this turn. Is a 7. Ooh, excuse me, 7/5 with trample. Saboteur now. So, if you would scry a number of cards, draw that many cards instead. So the upside to this is that if we're scrying low numbers, instead of looking at the top, we just draw from the bottom with River out. The downside to it is that now we don't get to manipulate cards from the top of our deck to the bottom, which, since we can't draw from the top anymore, means anything that manipulates cards to the top of our deck to begin with just leaves them there while this is in play. There's no way to get them back to the bottom of the deck. I think I still have to consider it, though. Eligeth, Crossroads, Eligeth, Crossroads, Seer, Crossroads, Augur. Is 4 blue. It's a Mahamoti Jin with upside. For 5/6 flyer. You become the monarch. Opponent attacks you while you're the monarch. Deals damage to that player equal number of cards in their hand. Spells your opponents cast that target 1 or more commanders you control cost 3 more. Explosion of Riches. Draw a card, then each player may draw a card. Whenever a card is drawn this way, Explosion of Riches deals 5 damage to target opponent chosen at random from among your opponents. Nope. Jack is deals damage to that player, planeswalker. It's attacking equal to the number of artifacts you control. Fiery Cannonade, Fire Diamond, Mist of Flames, Flamekin Herald. Commander spells you cast have Cascade. No. Inner Sorcery from a graveyard. Alright, that's a reprint from what's its name. Cascade Counterspell. All creatures can attack your opponents and planeswalkers your opponents control as though those creatures had haste. Ghost of Ramses deals combat damage to a player. Choose up to 1 target card in a graveyard that was discarded or put there from the library this turn. Put that card into its owner's hand. So we don't discard cards for anything. If we surveil cards from our deck into the graveyard, we could get those cards back, but the problem with that is most of the time what we're going to do is surveil. If we do run any surveil, it will be to put cards we don't want to draw that we can't scry away because we draw from the bottom of our deck. So we're putting those cards into the graveyard, so this is letting us draw those cards randomly also. He's still not great. I guess technically he's on the list, but he does not seem like a card I actually want. It's how do you spell Ramirez again? Here is a Pietro. Is 2 in a blue. Huh. I'm not surprised Ramirez, but De Pietro is a name it recognizes. Okay. You do you, word program. I'll be over here being confused by what does and does not constitute a real world name. So we put him on the list just in case we wanted to use that effect, because it's more cards that we get, and it's not actually drawing the cards, so it does get around certain things, but it's still weird. And I don't know that it's weird in a good way. Unspent Man becomes colorless. Hull Breacher is banned to hell and back. Impulsive Pilferer. Yes, that is the technical term for a card that is banned and will probably never come off the list because it's absolutely silly when you have one and you cast a wheel or twister effect. Jessica Thriceborn enters the battlefield with loyalty counters on her. For each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game, choose-star creature. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple damage. Jessica Thriceborn deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. And it can be your commander. Control your commander, you may choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile the top 3 cards of your library, you may play them. I don't need Jeweled Lotus for this deck. Commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent. It deals that much damage to each other opponent. I don't need Croc the Thumbless. Each end step, draw a card if you cast a spell from a graveyard or activate ability of a card in a graveyard this turn. No. Stone. Those are reprints. Malcolm is 1 or more pirates deal damage to your opponents. Create a treasure. Mana Drain. Merchant Raiders, or another pirate enters the battlefield under your control. Tap up to 1 target creature that doesn't untap during its controller's untap step as long as you control the Raiders. Meteoric Mace, +4/+0 and trample and has Cascade. Exile target instant or sorcery from a graveyard. Copy that card 3 times. You may cast the copies without paying their mana cost. Exile Mnemonic Deluge. I think so. Strong as that would be, it's not really. The deck doesn't care. Like, the deck would rather put its things back on the bottom and redraw them and recast them than spend 9 mana and cast 3 copies. Ready to attack this turn. Prying Eyes, Relentless Assault. Rings. First Strike, Menace, Trample. Sakashima, Thousand Faces. As a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of the Thousand Faces other abilities. Legend rule doesn't apply, and partner. Don't think so. It is a tiny bit interesting with the second ability. Like, if I'm going for that, having 2 copies of River out, but I think at that point I'd rather have a lot more copies of River out, so we probably want the Helm of the Host or whatever it's called from original Dominaria. Protege, enter the battlefield as a copy of any permanent that entered the battlefield this turn. Gain control of each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. Shipbreaker. Attack Scry X, where X is a number of attacking creatures with flying. Yeah, that one seems less impressive because I don't plan on having a ton of creatures in this deck, and I don't care if they fly necessarily. I care about their, actual game impacting abilities, so. Any number of target creatures, planeswalkers, and/or players. For each of them, exile the top card of your library. Then Soulfire Eruption deals damage equal that card's mana value to that permanent or player. You may play the exile cards until the end of your next turn. Sphinx of the Second Sun. Beginning of your post-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. So untap, upkeep, and draw steps. Doesn't seem like anything I actually need. Like, we don't have any interesting upkeep effects yet. Untapping all my stuff is useful, but it's also an 8-drop, so, Right? 8-drop or 9-drop? I forget what the Sphinx is. 8-drop. Okay. Vessel. Togo's the landfall make rocks, right? Yeah. Return a land you control to owner's hand. Untap Trench Behemoth. It gains hexproof until end of turn. Target creature an opponent controls attacks during its controller's next combat phase if able. Dies. Draw a card. Encore. Cascade deals X damage to each creature and planeswalker your opponent's control, where X is the number of spells you've cast this turn. Fortune new. Whelming Wave. Reprint. Wrong turn. Target opponent gains control of target creature. Zara Renegade Recruiter attacks. Look at defending player's hand. You put a creature card from it onto the battlefield under your control tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. Return that creature to its owner's hand to begin the next end step. Nope. Pop back over here. So that was Commander Legends. Next up should be Baldur's Gate. We're on Conflux after that. If I can remember that after going through this list and all of the things that are on it. Oh, right, I need to see what the initiative looks like to see if I care. Aboleth Spawn. Creature on the battlefield under opponent's control causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger. You may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's just a generically good ability, but at the same time, I usually don't have a plan with it, so I don't care enough to copy that. Like, yes, players are going to play things that have good comes into play effects, and I will therefore be able to copy them, but that's about it. Turn target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Oh, 6 target non-land permanents. Beginning of your end step. Oh, right. We saw this one already. Whenever you attack, up to 1 target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. Return that creature to its owner's hand to begin the next end step. You may discard your hand. If you do, draw a card for each player being attacked. Combat damage to a player. Get that many treasures. And draw that many cards. I have no max hand size. Turtle was a reprint from like either the game night thing or oh, it's from the gift pack. Yeah, it was the gift pack rare, and then it was in game nights also. Sea Hag. Block this turn. First artifact spell you cast each turn costs 1 less. Level 2, cards on the top of your library till you hit an artifact and the rest on the bottom in a random order. And beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. When Astral Dragon enters the battlefield, create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-creature permanent, except they're 3/3 dragon creatures in addition to their other types, and they have flying. I don't know what silly thing I would actually do with the Astral Dragon in this deck. I don't think we have any permanents yet where if we made 2 copies of them, all of a sudden everything would just explode in our favor. No, with power less than power are goaded. Say 2/5. Whenever a goaded attacking or blocking creature dies, I get a treasure. Taylor attacks or dies. Choose one or more. Each mode must target a different player. Target opponent draws 3 cards and discards 3 at random. Target opponent sacrifices a non-artifact. Deals damage to target opponent equal the number of cards in their hand. So nothing that actually triggers River. It's okay, I guess. Counter target spell. If it targets a commander you control, scry 2, then draw a card. If gates you control activate only as a sorcery. A treasure token. 4 damage to each opponent. Selves, reprint, blasphemous act, blood boiler, sorcerer. You take the initiative, sacrifice an artifact or creature, go target creature. Card. Juka Bog. Go to creatures your opponent's control can't block. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, go target creature an opponent controls. 2 damage to each non-dragon. Bronze Walrus. Burnished Heart. Campfire. Till end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness, or excess the number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are instant cards, sorcery cards, or have an adventure. Commander creatures you own have, when this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. East. Days of Chaos Adventurer. I take the initiative. When it attacks, exile the top card of my library. If I've completed a dungeon, I might play that card this turn without paying its mana cost. Otherwise, I might play that card this turn. So it does let me exile the top card of my library, so I can burn through cards. Because I don't have to cast them if I don't want to, and if there are things that I don't want, getting rid of them entirely is probably an okay thing. I have to see if I care about the initiative, though. If I care about the initiative and the one other dungeon, the Mad Mage's dungeon from Forgotten Realms, then I can be talked into running these cards, so you need to see what the initiative dungeon looks like again. Have 2, sacrifice an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and draw a card. Hold, contact other plane. Can't block this turn, goad them. No. Death Kiss is another goad thing, right? Creature attacks one of your opponents, double its power until end of turn. And yeah, it goads X creatures when it becomes monstrous. Deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control if their spell was cast from exile. 5 damage instead. Foretell, 4 red. Beginning of your upkeep, put 2 descent counters on it. Then each player creates X treasures, and descent deals X damage to them, where X is the number of counters on it. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent you control, then return to the battlefield. Forum reprint, Domineering Will reprint, Draconic Lore, Dragon Cultist. 5 or more damage, make a 4/4 dragon. Dream Pillager is a reprint, yeah. Go work Molno. Dungeon Delver. Room abilities of dungeons you own trigger an additional time. Will only matter if I actually care about exploring the dungeons. So I really need to see the Undercity or whatever it's called. I think it's called the Undercity too, which means we're forever away from it. So, real quick, let's go to... We're on page 2, but let's go to 4 and see if we can find the Undercity, because I think it's over here. There it is, Undercity. Unless you venture into the Undercity, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Oh! Huh, that's not optional. So, if an opponent steals the initiative from us, they have to go through this dungeon, which means they have to secret entrance at the very least. Can I pull up the thing so I can make sure I see what ones they're for? So they're not forced to scry too. They can take this path. Create a treasure token. Draw a card. Black skeleton token with menace. Reveal up to 2 cards from your library. Put a creature card from among them. Oh, top 10 cards, not top 2. Onto the battlefield with 3 1/1 counters. It gains hexproof until the end of turn, then shuffle. It's only the first time they go into that dungeon, though, and they can skip the scry too and just put counters on one of their creatures, and that does lead them down the path of 5 damage. So it would be more fun if the scry 2 was with the 5 damage, so that way they might be tempted to go down that path to get the damage through. But yeah, I think it's a lot less tempting to go down the right side than it is to go down the left, especially if we're going to punish them for scrying on top of that. It does give us another forced search, though, for the second mode on River, so that is a thing. I don't know if I care enough, though. Free life, draw a card, create a treasure, only as a sorcery. For each opponent, you create a token that's a copy of up to 1 target creature that player controls. Generically strong, but not anything we actually need, I don't think. Trample Myriad, plus X, where X is the number of lands defending player controls. Create a token that's a copy of enchanted creature, except that token is a 1/1. When enchanted creature dies, if that creature was a horror, return endless evil to owner's hand. I think so. 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. You take the initiative, beginning your end step. If you have the initiative, make a 1/1. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 fairy dragon. Enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature you don't control until end of turn and untap it. It gains haste and myriad until end of turn. One or more dragons you control attack an opponent, goad target creature that player controls. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one or more of your opponents, if that creature had to attack this combat, put a 1/1 counter on this and draw a card. Cost 1 less for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. We'll have to think about Forgotten Horror when we get to it, assuming I don't forget about it myself. Opponent mills 14 cards. No. Pay 2. If they do, put a rope counter on a creature they control. Otherwise, exile Fraying Line and each creature without a rope counter on it. Then remove all rope counters from all creatures. Cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand. You may cast up to one target card of the other type from your graveyard. The spell cast from your graveyard this way will be put into the graveyard exile instead. You have to pay for it because it doesn't say, right? If your commander, both commanders, something refers to an effect when you can choose. This is just all stuff on backgrounds. So yeah, I'm guessing then that Gale, you actually have to pay for the other spell because that seems to be the way he's worded. I don't think we need Gale's redirection. Psy Enforcers has Myriad and can pump all creatures with its name. Nice battlefield on your control. Goad each creature target player controls. That's right, those are from the Zendikar Rising commander. Warband, Goblin Spy Master. We already saw him. Grey Harbor Merfolk. Grell Philosopher. Enters the battlefield in the beginning of your upkeep. Each horror you control gains all activated abilities of target artifact and opponent controls until end of turn. No. Attacks a player. If no opponent has more life than you, create 2 treasure tokens. Attacking, no. World's Horn, Hoarding Ogre, Hullbreaker Horror. The Future is a reprint, right? Yeah, we saw it in Command 2019 and didn't want it. Imoen Mystic Trickster. Ward 2. Your end step, if you have the initiative, draw a card, draw another card. If you've completed a dungeon, choose a background. Does that much damage to each opponent. Exile top 3 cards of your library. You may play those cards, create 3 treasures. And enters the battlefield. Target creature opponent controls can't block this turn and goad it. But the token has flying and isn't legendary. Nope. Iron Mastiff. Reprints. Mist Dragon. Enters the battlefield for each opponent. Tap up to 1 target creature that player controls and they don't untap next untap step. Karlach was untap all attacking creatures that gain first strike after this phase. There's additional combat phase. Enters the battlefield. Put 3 1/1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature artifact. Becomes a homunculus with flying. The reprints. Kind of a scry. Not really where I want to be at though. Because again, I can put it into play if it's a land. Otherwise, I have the option of moving it to the bottom, so it's just another scry effect, but it feels a bit more expensive and a bit too expensive, honestly. I have to cast dragon spells to scry too. Or, oh, there's the lantern. Okay. Yeah, I felt like I skipped over something else, but no, there it is. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Greaves. Cultist of Tiamat. Cast a non-creature spell. Target creature gets plus X. X is the spell's mana value. You take the initiative and create a treasure. When you attack the player who has the initiative, create a treasure. When you complete a dungeon, make a 5/5 dragon. Or dragon spell, deal damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target that isn't a commander. If these becomes crewed for the first time each turn. If it was crewed exactly 2 creatures, it gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw 2 cards. Enters the battlefield. If it was cast, exile, then return all other permanent cards exiled with Mirror of Life trapping to the battlefield under their owner's control. Orders. It's a copy of a creature an opponent controls, except it has other creatures with the same name as this creature are goaded. Controlled by different players. If you control neither creature, draw 3 cards. Total number of opponents who were dealt combat damage this turn. She is a Time Lord human rogue, so she gets the rogue one right away, which is Death Touch. Nah. She only deals the damage to the player, right? Yeah. You do draw 3 cards, equip 1. Choose new targets, it gains haste. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this permanent. You may put a creature card exile with knowledge ship onto the battlefield under your control. Orb. Whenever you cast a spell, you may put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Wait. Whenever you cast a spell, you may put it on the bottom of its owner's library. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library to reveal a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put all the revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order once each turn. So if I don't like the spell I drew, I can choose to put it on the bottom and cast from the top. And if I know what the top card is and I want it, and if I wanted the other spell, I'll get to draw it next turn anyway. This is a weird one. And it kind of works with our commander. She has a 6-drop, though, for a 2/7. Might still be interested in that, though. Alright. Oh, wait. We go down to Baldur's Gate. Alright, her name is Nira. Wild Mage. 4 red, blue. She's a half elf, so human, elf. She's a shaman. I was gonna say wizard, but that would be wrong apparently. 2/7. Alright. We will consider her for her very strange effects that technically interact with my current build. The battlefield, tapped and attacking only during the declare attacker step and only if you're attacking 2 or more opponents. I think I need Nimble Claw Adept. She has Striders the battlefield, tap target creature opponent controls and goad it. Reprints. Attacking creatures get +X/+O, where X is the number of players being attacked. Draw a card. Cast a spell from exile. This creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. The 3 target creatures gain flying. Our adventure side. Spell. Replicate. Exile. Oh, replicate is tap an untapped card you control. Exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard and copy it. Cast the copy without paying its mana cost, then exile Psionic Ritual. And cast dragon spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. Nope. Probe. There's Rowan again. Player casts a spell, they lose 1 life for each spell they've cast this turn. Try 1, then draw a card. Never attacks Scry 2. Scry 2 repeatedly is actually kind of helpful. I think it's a bit too much for the... Oh, wait, this isn't the other one. This is, like, the Young Blue Dragon Scry's on this half. This is the one with the counter spell on it. 7 mana to cast? Yeah, no. Unfortunate. Yeah, Scrying 2 would be super helpful, because then if we have a card we want and a card we don't want, we can put them both to the bottom, draw the card we want, and then scry 2 again to get more cards between us and the next time we would have to draw the card we didn't want, while still letting the top of our deck be more interesting each time. Like, we actually get to scry. Yeah, scrying 1 is not great with River, unless we can shuffle a lot. But Scry 2 or more, especially repeatably, is going to be a much bigger game with her. Reprints. Put a double strike counter and then overload. Yep. Take the initiative. Target creature gains menace and haste. Crystal. Copy it X times, and I may choose targets. Damage any target. The one that makes a treasure, and then you can sack a treasure to give double strike. So far, the only adventure I've seen that I would want... Wait, didn't we pass... Shouldn't the blue one have been on this page? Did I pass the Tomb of Horrors adventure? Nope, okay. Oh yeah, we go for... Oh, it's Sweeping Cleave. Okay, I see what happened. I was gonna say, we should have seen the blue, adventure creature, like, venture into the dungeon, and then if you've cleared a dungeon, you get extra stuff. Whenever this creature attacks a player, has more life than that player, this creature can't be blocked this turn. Go target creature an opponent controls. Reprints, Territorial Hellkite. Thunderwave. 3 damage to each creature. Choose a creature, 3 damage to each creature not chosen this way, and 6 damage to each creature your opponents control. Nope. When you cast your second spell, copy it. If you've completed a dungeon, copy that spell twice instead. Hmm. I do like turning my time walks into time stretches without actually having to cast time stretch, because time stretch I always feel is way more dangerous if it gets commandeered or something. You just tend to lose for giving somebody 2 extra turns and tapping like the 8 or 9 mana it costs to cast. But if I time walk and they commandeer the time walk, I would still get the copies, but they would get an extra turn before I get mine. But then again, I'm running the time walk effects anyway. Yeah, I might want the Tomb of Horrors adventure, and then I might want the Caves of Chaos adventure. Because every time an opponent steals the initiative, the first time they steal the initiative from us, we guarantee get to ding them with River and get her effect, so. Vexing Puzzle Box. Deep Researcher. Tormentor reprint. Volo Itinerant Scholar. It hasn't been noted by this artifact. Draw a card for each creature type noted for target permanent you control named Volo's Journal. The background. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery. Then shuffle the rest into their library. You may cast up to X instants and sorceries. X is 1, X is 2, X is 3. Sacrifice an artifact or creature, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Reprint the Wild Magic Surge. Destroy target permanent opponent controls. Controller reveals cards on the top of their library until they reveal a permanent card that shares a card type with that permanent. Put it onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom in a random order. For Eladrin. Instant sorceries you cast cost 1 less. You may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. So during combat, I would have an extra one of these guys for every opponent I have. Still doesn't seem amazing. I need will. I choose new targets for the spell or ability. You may choose new targets, then copy it. Caught stealing, threaten the merchant, block this turn if able, create a treasure token for each opponent who was dealt damage this turn. And the Sanity Flayer. Whenever a player mills 1 or more creature cards, you create a 1/1 black horror token, and an opponent or target player mills 3. I don't think we'll have enough creatures to actually make the horror token with Zelix here. Alright, so it's possible we want the Undercity, and if we want the Undercity, we just want the 2 adventurers as the set off points for venturing into the dungeon. So oh wait, was it on the previous page? It was on the previous page. Forward again. For treasure. There it is. Tomb of Horrors Adventurer. 5 and a blue for an elf monk. Just said it, I forgot. 5 and a blue elf monk. 4. Alright, we go back, we go back. And something chaos something. Chaos Warp, Chaos Dragon. Caves of Chaos Adventure, that's what it was. 4 mana, Human Barbarian, 5/3. Caves of Chaos. Sure. 4 and a red, 3 and a red. Barbarian. Alright, so that was Commander Legends, Baldur's Gate. Alright, and then we were on Conflux. Pop over here. Don't think we have enough creatures for that. There's a slim possibility I want Armillary Sphere, because we do need to be able to shuffle our deck a fair amount. Okay, I've just thought of that, and now I'm wondering what Scroll Rack does with this deck, because I forget the exact wording on Scroll Rack, and we just saw it before, but I wasn't paying attention to it because it wasn't from the set we were looking at. But now in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, how does Scroll Rack work? Because it's an exchange, so I don't think you draw any cards. I think you set your hand aside, but if you do draw it and then you get to put all the other cards back on top of your deck, that would actually be really nuts with how River's worded. And it's okay. We'll think about that when we actually get to the thing. Okay. Yeah, I don't know that I would want Armillary Sphere, but there's a slim chance I do, because I probably want a repeatable shuffle effect like Journeyer's Kite or something before I want this. And I think I skipped over Journeyer's Kite because I think it was from Champions of Kamigawa. So, I have to think about it. Opponent's control, get -1 power. Eh. Turn an artifact you control to owner's hand. Those things. There's a battlefield, top 3 cards. Artifact. It's not repeatable though. Like, I do like cards that let me look at a bunch of cards and put them on the bottom in any order, because then I can get the one that I wanted that didn't meet the criteria, and hopefully throw even more cards on the bottom, or at least I'll know what I'm drawing so I know if I need to shuffle or not. Like Disorder, Inkwell Leviathan, pass over anything else. Deal damage equal to number 1/1 counters on to target player or planeswalker. Nope. Okay, there we go. There's font again. Okay. Back to scrolling. Turn an artifact you control to owner's hand. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. New. If you control a black permanent, target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Make a red 3/1 with haste. No. Spire. Probably do want Reliquary Tower though. My non-basic lands. Blue-red draws a ton of cards. I can usually use a Reliquary Tower. Just on principle. Scepter. Monarch, Tragic Visions. Stable Frontier for anything. Gains flying if you control a white permanent. Turn view from above to owner's hand. Damage to each creature and player. Deals damage to any target equal to twice the number of goblins it devoured. Lordly Council. Nope. Okay. Back. Alright, so unfortunately the two commander sets with all of their, like, Commander Legends with all of their reprints took a huge chunk of time to get through. So we are at the hour mark, and I do have to get ready for work, so we'll have to end there for today. But we have some more interesting cards to consider at least, so there's that. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.